So we discussed a lot of things about Metallica on this channel. Their vocals, composition, music videos, lyrics, and today we're exploring another very important aspect of my favorite band, album arts. I can't explain how important album arts are to me. They put me in the mood, make me visualize things in my head while listening to my favorite songs. So today, we're discussing most of Metallica's album covers, and we'll see the stories behind them and what's so great about them. So let's start. As we all know, Metallica were planning first on naming their debut album Metal Up Your Ass, so they hired artist Stephen Gorman to make a quite literal interpretation of the name. Everyone in the band loved the idea for that name and album cover, especially Cliff. However, Metallica's manager told them that no record label would accept them with that name and album cover and that they had to change it. Metallica was very upset because they really did not want to compromise anything. Cliff specifically was very upset and shouted the phrase, "Why don't we just kill 'em all?" And we'll get to that in a sec. Metallica didn't leave that great design in use though. It's a very popular t-shirt design among metalheads, and people still use the phrase "metal up your ass" as a sort of a Metallica slogan. I really like the metal up your ass design. It's much less fancy than Metallica's other album covers. It's just a very literal representation of the name, metal up your ass, because you use your ass to sit on the toilet, and a sword which is made out of metal comes out of the toilet, so you see where that comes from. And the entire thing overall is not that detailed. It's mostly the red Metallica logo, a black background with some yellowish touches, and a very weirdly located toilet above the words metal up your ass. I think, yeah, maybe for some professional designers, it's a bit unprofessional. They maybe could find a lot of mistakes within it. But for us Metallica fans, it's an iconic piece of the Metallica history. So let's get to an iconic album cover, Kill 'Em All. So as we said, the name Kill 'Em All came out of the rejection of the Metal Up Your Ass name and album art. Cliff yelling, "Why don't we just kill 'em all?" And then Lars going, Kill 'Em All. That's actually a really great name. Also, the one that wanted the album icon to be a hammer was Cliff Burton. From what I read, Cliff requested that specifically, which was kind of his thing, as Kirk Hammett said in 2008, that Cliff carried a hammer with him everywhere he went, and he would take it out occasionally and start destroying things with it, mostly dressing rooms. So after the whole metal up your ass thing was done, Fate looked like it planned something better for Metallica. The whole story just so crazy, like Cliff being angry and shouting something. Lars caught onto it and utilized it, making it one of the most iconic things in metal. Man, does Lars have a good vision for things, even as a stinky teenager. The album art for Kill 'Em All is just awesome. The color it's mostly based on is Scarlet Bright Red. The Metallica logo, the Kill 'Em All title, the square that has the drawing inside of it, and of course, blood is red. So red is all over the cover. I love the hammer, the hand shadow, the blood. It's gory, it's violent, but not in a way that would get Metallica in trouble. And for some reason, I always thought the blood shaped an image in my head of a person thinking. Like, look at it. It looks exactly like a person having his finger on his chin, thinking about stuff. I don't know, that's just my weird thing. And then there is black that is spread around the drawing and the logo. I love the cover. It's like awesome, it's iconic, and I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but it feels more similar and locks better with the songs than the Metal Up Your Ass cover. So let's get to Ride the Lightning. And actually, Kirk was the one that chose the name. Kirk spotted the phrase in a horror book he was reading called The Stand by Stephen King, in a scene where a lawyer gives advice to his client when the client asks what will happen if they lose their appeal. So the lawyer responds by saying, "You enjoy your good food at prison until it's time to ride the lightning." So yeah, huge credit goes to Kirk for spotting that kick-ass name. The artist that created the album art was taking a lot of instructions from Metallica because the band had a very close image of what they wanted. The word that can describe the album cover is blue. Everything is blue, just terrifying, chilling, freezing blue. you got for the first time ever a three-dimensional Metallica logo that was super bright and glowing bluish white. I just love that logo, it's amazing. Then you have the background, which is supposedly a storm. It's very well made and detailed with different shades of blue. And then you have in the middle there an electric chair with lightning around it and lightning hitting it. Also a very literal interpretation of the album name. It's a chair literally riding the lightning. And for some reason, a lot of people think that the chair looks like a microphone. Does it? Never felt that, to be honest. So let's get to the classic, Master of Puppets. So this time, James was the one that had the idea for the album cover. He had a sketch of things he wanted, and he gave it to the artist, Don Brodigan, to make it into an actual thing. And actually, the artist, Don, didn't hear any of the music before working on the album. He wasn't exposed to any of Master of Puppets, so he could have a reference to work on. His entire reference was James's sketches. So maybe the sketches that James gave him could have been quite precise and detailed. So as Lars said, the image of the album visualizes the album's theme. And the album's theme is manipulation, whether they're soldiers as in disposable heroes or addicts as the title track, and his words are very true. The way to visualize manipulation is a hand controlling strings attached to puppets, and on the album we see that in the top right and top left corners, and the strings are attached to the graveyard. The album has a very interesting composition of colors, mostly red, orange, claret, brown, and yellow, and has a very warm color grading in contrast to Ride the Lightning's very cold color grading. You also have the three-dimensional Metallica logo again, but this time it's way slimmer and way smaller and doesn't have all that haze around it in comparison to Ride the Lightning. You also have a soldier's helmet attached to one of the crosses, which I don't know why, but as a kid, I thought it was a leaf on top of the cross. I don't know why. The whole album are just a masterpiece. Color composition, idea, simplicity of interpretation. I just love it. And Justice for All, as we all know, has one of the most beautiful and iconic album covers in the history of rock and roll. They already worked with those artists on Garage Days Revisited album cover, and Lars wanted to work with them again. So Roger Gorman assigned his brother, Stephen Gorman, to work on the Justice cover. And yeah, as we said before, this is the same guy who worked on the Metal Up Your Ass cover. So can you imagine the same guy who made this immature, silly cover made this classy masterpiece? It's really weird how the same guy designed both albums. He's really got diverse abilities. Lars and James had a very specific idea of what they wanted the cover to be. Lars told them they wanted a blind Lady Justice that is pulled by ropes everywhere from her body. So Steven began working on the album cover. He tried to make a blindfolded, rope-surrounded Lady Justice. And he actually used the Lady Justice statue from the High Court in Frankfurt, Germany, because as he said, it was the most feminine and sexy version he could find. So the album cover is really magnificent. You got the 2D Metallica logo that really stands out because it feels like it's imprinted inside the cover. And also its color is very unique, the avocado color palette. You also have the album's symbol, Lady Justice, in the middle. And as we said, she's blindfolded, and she has ropes surrounding her from everywhere, the neck, the arms, the shoulders, the stomach. You also have money spilling out of these plates she's holding. I love the color of the background. It's not white, but it's like creamy, and it's not smooth. It's full of cracks and dirty stains on it. It feels like this very classy old paper that looks a bit damaged and, I don't know, yellowish. I hope you get what I mean, which really goes very well with the classy, elegant style of the album. That's why I always say that Justice is the most fancy Metallica record, despite the aggression and all of that. Even the title, and Justice for All, that is on the bottom right corner, feels very classy and ancient, because it's written with the style of old ink pens that used to exist, you know what I mean? Because these ink pens always made uneven letters. You have some letters bigger than others. And also, some of the letters have some dripping ink, so you get what I mean? This classy 19th century font. So now we get to the Black Album, one of the most iconic Metallica album covers, even though it does not contain anything, and that's what Metallica were planning to do. No fancy drawings for you to stare at while listening, just black, and what you do is only listen to fucking music. They wanted the music alone to make the album popular. No drawings, no symbol for the album to rely on. Also, this idea of having no drawings, just one solid color, was done before by other bands, and that's why people accuse Metallica of copying, such as the Beatles' White Album. The album art is literally entirely black. You only have the unclear logo of Metallica in the top left corner and the coiled snake in the bottom right corner. And speaking of the snake, the image was taken from a historical American flag which was created during the American War of Independence in the years between 1775 and 1783, featuring the snake on a yellow background with the words "Don't Tread on Me," and that's why "Don't Tread on Me" is basically the title track of the album. I love how the album art follows the same concept as everything that has to deal with the record, which is simplicity. The slogan of the Black Album could be "Less is more." Simplicity is the Black Album, whether they're songs, simple arrangements, shorter durations, the title, just self-titled Metallica, and the album cover, just as simple as possible.
A year ago when we sat down to write these songs, we wanted to write some simpler songs and to get a little more to the point. And I think that we just took that train of thought into the album cover. We could simplify that, we could simplify the title and so on, and just keep everything really, really basic and simple, and just try and stay away from some of those silly things that other metal bands get themselves involved in.
So this is where it gets real interesting. Load and reload. Metallica worked with controversial artist Andres Serrano, which is known for his unconventional art style, which is usually very graphic, using body fluids and feces, for example, to make an artistic shape. Serrano worked on two pieces, Load and Reload, which as we all know have really controversial mixtures there. Load is a mixture of cow's blood and semen, and Reload is a mixture of urine and blood. Very weird indeed. Kirk and Lars love the covers, and Lars actually says they're his favorites in the entire Metallica catalog, because they don't refer to any album in any way. They're just cool pieces of art for him, and they make the two album covers more free and not confined into one theme or one area of lyrical topics.
The image a lot. There was no hidden attempts to, start a revolution or, to turn anything upside down. Or it was, I think we were going for something that was, we've always had everything, the album title, the song titles, the covers, everything sort of tie in together. And I think we were feeling that we wanted to go more neutral, to have each thing be more their own entities. And so we wanted like an album title that didn't really mean much, and a sort of visual that really didn't have much to do with song 7 on the record or something. So we started getting individuals as entities, and really liked the image of Serrano.
However, James doesn't like them at all, and the artist said that James was probably still fuming over the two pieces. My opinion is more towards the unpopular side. I really do like the album covers for Load and Reload, because everything gives a twin album vibe between Load and Reload. You have twin songs like Fixer and The Outlaw Torn, Mama Said and Low Man's Lyric. You have twin titles, Load and Reload, and also twin album covers that follow the same artistic structure with different drawings that are still from the same school and the same style. You have black on the top, black on the bottom. In the middle, you have the drawing, the Metallica logo on the top left, and the Load Reload title on the bottom right on both of them. And for the first time ever, the Metallica logo was changed, and I honestly love the font they use for these album covers. You have these doodles inside of the letters, so yeah, I love Load and Reload in every single way, even the controversial covers. So now we get to the most hated Metallica record, Saint Anger. Metallica recruited Brian Schroeder, an artist that has worked before in the metal community and has worked with Metallica before but on the designs of their t-shirts, but never a full-on album art, and that was his first time. And Metallica actually requested to have 4 variations of the colors on the album cover, not just red, but they never did it, maybe because they forgot, or didn't get back to it, or just fully ditched the idea. The album art is very simple, but it goes very well with the record. This veiny fist that is tied up. The strong fist is for anger. A lot of people make a fist when they're angry. And the ropes are for feeling uncomfortable, because everything about the records makes you feel uncomfortable. The snare, the guitar tone, why not also the album art? It also has a very unique style with these very comic booky stripes and weird things around the fist. The color grading is also very warm, mostly orange and red. So yeah, I really love the album cover. It really locks up well with the Saint Anger songs. So let's get to Death Magnetic, and this time Metallica worked with a big design company called Turner Duckworth that worked with big names like Amazon, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Subway, and more to make designs for them, and they were ready to design Death Magnetic. The album's theme started out when a photo of Alice in Chains vocalist Lane Staley was in the studio, and James started thinking of all the people that died in the rock and roll business, as a tribute, and that got him thinking about death, that everyone is drawn to it day by day, and how inevitable it is, and how in our lives we experience a lot of near-death experiences that click with us. So another literal interpretation of an album cover is Death Magnetic. You have the iconic looking coffin in the middle there, surrounded by a huge magnetic field, which I love. It's so unique how the coffin emits magnets and how that links to the album title. And when you look at the magnetic field itself, it's super accurate. That's the way we see magnetic field drawings. So as an idea, it fits really well, and also the color scheme stands out in the Metallica discography. In a lot of the album arts, we see orange, red, yellow, but this album focuses more on the white, silver, brown, gray color scheme. And if you look closely into the album cover, you'll find that the letters D and C are shaped like magnets. It's super cool. Now let's get to the latest Metallica studio album, and the last album art we're going to talk about today, Hardwired to Self-Destruct. The origin story of this album art is really interesting. It started in Lars's wedding in 2015 to Jessica Miller. For a wedding present, the photographers gave them a photo that had Lars and his wife superimposed on top of each other. And he showed it to James, and Lars told them, when we do the next record, we should make these guys make a photo that have our faces on top of each other. So that did indeed happen on Hardwired to Self-Destruct. All of their faces were integrated in one another. Unlike the fans, the band members too were confused which is which. I think the one on the top there is Lars, the one in the middle is James, the one on the left with his tongue out is definitely Kirk, and the one on the right is Rob. You also have a couple of other eyes and teeth placed all over the place. People also accuse Metallica of ripping off the idea from the album Old Fellows, because indeed they're very similar, but in fact, having mixed up faces is a relatively popular trend in rock and roll album covers. You have Queen, The Miracle, Love Forever Changes, and Foo Fighters Wasting Light. And I love the album cover itself. I love the drawing in the middle of all of their faces on top of each other, and I also love the font of the album, these lagging letters. It's super cool. So we discussed everything we could today about Metallica's studio album covers. So tell me, what did you think of the video, and what is your favorite and least favorite Metallica album cover?